Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday. My name is Mike Cromwell.
I'm Brian DeVault.
And how often do you think the catalyst to realize that you're substandard is an attack that shuts you down?
About 99%.
So that's the catalyst. You may be cruising along thinking you're up here, but in reality, you're down here. And that becomes the catalyst.
Because you're not doing the auditing, you're not doing the testing, you're not performing all the controls that ensure that you have a high degree of security maturity.
Right. And so if you're on a board, an executive, a CISO, CIO coming into a new organization, you got to determine where is this curve for your business today before that happens.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of checklists and guidelines. I mean, there's several different, sort of security models or standards that are out that are available today. And you can choose one and choose to implement and then figure out which categories that you're lacking. And as you start filling those gaps, you'll see that line, that brown line will start to go up that curve until you get to a point where you've got a great cybersecurity posture. But until you start implementing some of those things, using standards, using audits, using controls, using governance, using some guideline, whether it's, compliance is, PCI compliance is just a guideline. HIPAA compliance is a guideline, right? There are thousands of them out there, hundreds of them. So pick the one that is really structured for your industry and around your business, who you are in that industry, whether you're a service provider or a retail provider or a consumer or, whatever you may be, and implement that for your organization to get you to a higher level of.
So if you're an executive watching this, you're CIO, hell, you're channel partner watching this who's got clients, and you want to know where you are on this curve, what's the first thing you do?
So many service providers like Netrio offer network and security assessments, either at a low cost or at no cost, depending on what the engagement looks like overall. But that's a great place to start because that'll give you a benchmark of where you are and then start to uncover some of these other things.
And those could get if I'm the new CEO coming into a business, right? I know enough to be dangerous on this front. I would sure as hell want to know where my business is. And I'd want the full Monty in terms of the assessment.
Right.
So how long does that assessment take and what do I get out of it that could translate into action to help me get to here ASAP?
So some of these, or most of them, are fairly summary in nature, right? So you're going to scan kind of, we'll use the term the low-hanging fruit, like the most common misconfiguration areas, the most common things that create, breaches in, whether it's, phishing or malware or data protection or what have you. So the time it takes to execute that, I'll say that summary in nature security assessment is say 1 to 2 weeks in general. But what that's going to do is it's going to tell you, okay, hey, I'm locked down, I'm buttoned up. So there's probably not, a whole lot of concern for me to go address urgently with some of the other areas of my business. I still want to audit. I still want to make sure the controls are in place. I still want to do all those things. But the alternative to that is that security assessment comes back and says, I've got nothing in place and it's a disaster.
Right.
In which case you can assess the appropriate level of urgency and importance to it so that you get the things that are corrected, that are low-hanging fruit, where your common areas of attack, those types of things. And you can dramatically decrease your vulnerability a lot of times by changing one configuration item. Right? And so those are things you want to catch early and often. And that's part of what a cybersecurity posture includes is regular vulnerability assessment. Right. For our cybersecurity customers, we do it on a daily basis.
So thanks for tuning in. We're going to be over the course of the next few weeks talking about actions that you can take if you're an executive in a business, whether you're a CISO, a CEO, on the board, tactics and actions that you can take to both assess your current level of risk, as well as actions you can take to close the gap from being at high risk to lower risk and having a good cut posture in place.
You bet. So we're going to talk about business process, business procedure, discussions you should be having internally, and then hopefully we'll be able to get into some tactical tools and some platforms that you can use to help increase your cybersecurity posture.
And if you haven't already talked to an MSSP, reach out to Netrio. We are certainly here to help. And we can also walk you through what are things you got to look for if you're needing help today and you want to enlist an MSSP. Objective things that you ought to be looking for, tools that you can use to help assess your current level of risk.
Absolutely.
So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week's Whiteboard Wednesday.
Thanks. If you liked our episode today, click here to subscribe. And for other Netrio content, check out our channel.